Thank you very much. Thanks so much to Finance Magnates for bringing me all the way here from Toronto. It's a long trip. It's a long trip home tomorrow. I hope to get tomorrow afternoon and visit some of the cool parts of Cape Town. What an awesome city here. Amazing country, beautiful geography. I'm going to have to come back and see more of it. I think I was hoping to go up to the Table Mountain, but it's looking like it's going to be cloudy, so I'll have to find something else. Maybe go check out the beaches and the markets and around sort of this wharf area, which is just incredible as well. I think this is the best talk I have, the best talk I've given. This is a brand new one, something I'm really excited about, and it's about conviction. And in my experience, it's the only real way to make money in markets is to develop intense conviction in what you have. And we're going to talk about the things I believe in, but the difference between someone else believing in it and you believing in it is conviction. And I feel it's like a muscle. So here's a bit more about me. I've done 4 talks here, so I kind of try to make them funny. But first, I owned a lot of NVIDIA shares at split adjusted now 32 cents. So I wish I had the conviction in that one. I think it's up like about 300x since then. So I think it was maybe a $10,000 trade would be worth $30 million right now. So I would have hung on to that one. But I liked it then just on the GPUs. I once won a class action lawsuit in a shareholder lawsuit. It was with the company IMAX. I was I wasn't personally a big investor, but I had a lot invested in IMAX. You know, the big screen, they have that here? Yeah, they had like some accounting fraud at the company. It became a shareholder lawsuit, and it took like 6 years to resolve, and I kind of got all the money back. It was a fun, not a fun round trip, but also not afraid to be contrarian, which can be a good thing. You can make a lot of money that way. It can be a bad thing as well. But this is about conviction, and it's 2 things. I'm going to share the things I'm sort of deeply convicted in now, but it's more about developing your own conviction. You can't borrow someone else's conviction, is the point. You know, a lot of what we learn in markets or we teach people is they'll give you tips and they'll give you an idea, but ultimately your conviction's never going to be as strong as theirs. So when something goes against it, it starts going down, you're going to have doubt, and you're going to bail on the trade at the worst possible moment. So what you need to have is conviction. I believe there are some techniques where you can gain conviction in something. You have to build it. You have to have the muscle. Exactly. The hardest part isn't being right, it's staying in. And like I said about NVIDIA, right? So it's one thing to have the idea. Like, good ideas are easy to find, unfortunately, or fortunately. But having a good idea and riding it from 1 to 100, or 1 to 10, or even 1 to 2, can be very difficult, because there's always going to be, we talked about the news, right? Like, the news is the fear industry. No company has 100 good quarters in a row. Few even have 3 out of 4 every year, right? So there's going to be something. We talked about Micron lately. You know, it's gone up 400%, 350% in the last year on AI. And it wasn't even early in AI. But there have been a lot of 20, 30% drawdowns within that, right? So the muscle that you need to develop is tolerating pain along the way. And that's what this talk is a lot about. And that's what you need to have the strongest conviction in, almost a religious conviction in what you believe in. And that's how you know, every great trade is painful, it says there. You know, I've held this one stock now since the bottom of COVID almost. And the idea was going to take a long time, but it's going to be a 10x trade. And it's up 7 times right now. It's like a small oil field services company that was trading at net cash. And it's just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's been painful along the way. Okay, so we're going to do this. This was me. I think this is in Johannesburg, 2023. Finance Magnates, Africa Summit. It was the first one, first time here. And it was on what I believed in then. You probably can't read them, but the first one was AI. What was going to be the first or the big trade on AI? And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you know, my conviction on it was just buy everything. That everything, all stock, you just buy the index on AI. It was going to be bullish ultimately for growth. corporate growth spending, and we've seen that. So that was the trade I talked about then. It was just going to improve margins. It was going to improve corporate margins, and we see that now with stocks trading at higher multiples. The one I said second was in the energy transition. There was so much talk about the energy transition, but my deepest conviction trade was copper. And this is something we have a lot of here, a lot of in Canada as well. It takes 10 years to build a copper mine, minimum. So if there's a shortage of copper, you can't solve it. You can't print copper. You can't conjure it. You can't open a mine for at least 10 years. Extremely difficult to open a mine almost anywhere in the world. And I said it then, copper was at $3 then. The COPX, which is the copper ETF for miners, is up 2.5 times since then. And it was the difficult, we were going to have shortages of copper, and you needed to buy it then. So pretty good on the scorecard then. Third one was the true U.S. superpower, and it was that the U.S. consumer will stay strong. There's an old adage, as long as I've been in markets, that to never underestimate the spending power of the U.S. consumer. And it is undefeated in my 25 years in markets. The ability of Americans to continue to spend is unbelievable. And the superpower was that they had 30-year fixed mortgages. So in America, uniquely, you buy a house and your mortgage is set when you buy it for the life of the mortgage. And then 2023, you could get a mortgage for like 3% for 30 years. And it just meant that people were going to be paying less and less on their houses, or at this low level on their houses for those 30 years. And the U.S. consumer certainly has held up. And even through this war in Iran, they continue to spend. And it is truly, truly a marvel. It's something I often have doubts in, speaking of conviction. So it's worth a reminder. Anyway, you can watch that and you can see exactly what I said 3 years ago. And it held up. So one of the ways that you can get conviction in really a bad idea is betting on the way you think the world should be. And I see this all the time from traders, is they'll say, well, you know, we shouldn't be using oil and gas, so I'm going to bet on green companies. Okay, that's nice. And we would all like that. But that's not the way the world is. Like, people are still going to be flying. We're going to be flying on the same jets, you know, when we're all dead. Like, they're still going to be in the air. That's the only way to fly. Like, you need the oil and gas. You know, you have to understand, I think, people, human nature, corporate nature, to think that the world's going to change. And I think Warren Buffett said that all his best trades were betting on things, not that things were going to change, but they're going to stay the same. And I think a lot of times people are looking for that change, when you can find something cheap that's going to stay the same. And I'm going to talk about one of those things I have a lot of conviction in right now. To give you an example, just a little bit ahead. Again, just for credibility, you know, and I want to talk a lot about AI. So this is January 2023, I was writing. The AI revolution is here. That's a month and a half after ChatGPT 3 was launched. And oftentimes, you'll know I'm a skeptic about technology. Not that it was just here. You should embrace it. Everything about AI. It's been a wonderful trade. I haven't caught too many 300% moves on it, unfortunately, because it's been intense. But it's also not just a tech story. It's a macro story that's still the same. And I believe it's going to play out quite slowly. And it hurt inflation a lot. So I've been on the AI trade for a long time. And I think the bottom slide there is the important one. I really believe that AI is the fourth industrial revolution. So if you see this chart, this is human GDP, like the GDP of human history right here. So you'd have like the Renaissance here, you know, you have the medieval times here, like the whole history. And the thing that happens right here when it turns up is I think the most important invention in history, which was the steam engine, which started the Industrial Revolution, right? And the steam engine, what was the killer app of the steam engine? Because it comes back to Johannesburg or South Africa. It was taking water out of mines, right? So you had mines for all of human history, and then the mines would get water in them. It became very difficult to go underground because you're fighting the water all the time. So they invented the steam engine to get water out of mines. Then mines could mine more efficiently. You get more ore, iron ore, make more steel, make more machines, and then they just went off that technology. It changed the world. Automation, second industrial revolution, electricity. Like, imagine the time when electricity came out, 150 years ago. Started lighting everything. Lighting costs. Candle wax was a major, major cost in life. Firewood, same thing. Electricity comes along, changes everything. You rebuild all the machines again. That's the second industrial revolution. The third, the computer chip. The computer chip led to everything. The internet, the computer chip. You can do math. The start of the third industrial revolution. You can see in our lifetime the changes that have come apart from the computer chip. The fourth one is AI. That's how big it is. It's there with the steam engine, electricity, the computer chip. The applications are infinite. It's still early, especially on the macro side. And I think the third point there, fourth one, is very important. The job disruption is coming. That's what people are worried about. I'm a writer. I'm worried about it. It's amazing what AI can write. Anyone in graphic design, translation, say a prayer for the people in translation, because that is an easily disrupted field. But I think right now, and a strong conviction I have that's recent, is that the consensus now, or the reality is that AI is going to be inflationary, right? So everyone's worried about these job losses, which will be deflationary, push prices down, make more job losses. But right now, the spending is unbelievable on power, on AI, on talent even. The layoffs aren't coming. We hear about these announcements once in a while from people who are laying off developers or something like that. But there isn't a lot of job losses right now. Companies are reluctant to let go of people for AI, except maybe the translators. I worry about them. But it's going to be inflationary first. It's going to be and to give you a sense of the spending, the AI CapEx spending this year alone is $1 to $1.3 trillion, almost all of it in the United States and Taiwan and China. Is equal to 35 times the cost it was to build out the U.S. interstate highway system. It's approaching the level of World War II spending on the war, the greatest war ever fought. Like, the amount of spending right now on AI, people can't even comprehend how much money is being thrown at AI by, it's really like 6 companies, right? Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, and Tesla, or XAI, and it is unbelievable amount of spending. It's going to push up prices, and I think that is an out of consensus trade right now, and this inflation is coming back around, so there are going to be some trades on that, obviously short bonds. And then the cycle of it is going to be first the chips, then the power, and then the metals. So we're seeing some of that right now. The chips are obviously, computer chips it means, are at stratospheric levels. The conviction I have is that the power going to be short power, and you guys have seen what it's like to not have the lights on in South Africa, and I think that's coming to a lot of places, maybe not having it on, but prices going a lot higher for power, huge investments. And again, chips, they can ramp up chips slowly, price of chips have gone up. To build a power plant or a nuclear power plant, it's years. Right now, if you want to get a natural gas turbine in the United States to make natural gas power, you can order for 2030, right? So what are you going to do between then if you need power? There's no way to make the power. Power prices are going up. Anyone who has power is making power. Unbelievable investment right now. And then building out the grid with that. So you have to have a stronger grid to move the power around. Copper is another trade on that, which I believe is going a lot higher. So that's the metal, and all the industrial, the steel, everything around that. I think those are all tremendous trades and still very early, and that's why it's early in AI. And then after that, a lot of the impacts or the downside, but still very early in there. There's a quote from Sam Altman. We still don't appreciate the energy needs of this technology. There's no way to get there without making a breakthrough. Well, newsflash, there is no breakthrough in making electricity. There's no way to get there. Like, the amount of power, and you can start to see it on the data center spending. Mines take 10 years. Turbines are getting a year's worth of orders at once. And people are slowing it down, right? We have this very obstructionist society in the West, everywhere. If you want to build a data center, you want to build a power plant, you want to build a nuclear power plant, and the amount of opposition you'll get to building a nuclear power plant is unbelievable. We're going to be short energy, electricity and metals. Something, again, I was talking about 3 years ago, I have even more conviction now that we were this is writing, I've been writing about this since 2022. I've been writing about it since 2020. We're going to need a lot more copper. And I think that's the biggest, easiest way to play it. The no-brainer trade of the decade. And we're up again 2.5 times, and that's going to be one that's going to end up 10 times, probably by 2030. One of the things about conviction is you can have conviction about the trade, but I doubt anyone who has conviction about the timeline, unless it's connected to a very specific event. If you have conviction about something, you believe in something, you have to have patience to go with it. Getting it right and getting the timing right, and I know a lot of traders, is exceedingly difficult. So you have to get in and wait. And just waiting is all the money is in the waiting. And I said there, we spent the last decade investing in Bitcoin mines when we should have been investing in real mines, because there's just no way out of it right now. If you want to open a copper mine in South Africa right now, you're not opening it, but for almost 2040, I would wager at this point. Again, what if I'm wrong? What can go wrong? So copper, we talked about this in the last trade. You have a lot of conviction. What can go wrong? Okay, well, 50% of copper demand right now is China. It's still China is building. I mean, we've all seen the pictures of China and what they're building. If China falls apart, copper demand is going to fall. You're just going to be in for a lot of pain. What if I'm wrong about AI? You know, the progress just stops on AI. It's possible. It's seemed that way a few times, like it hit a plateau. Again, with the capex on AI, what if they can develop really smart models that don't need a lot of power to run, a new generation of chips? So you always ask yourself, what can I go wrong? I have these deep convictions about things, but you always need to ask yourself, you know, what if I'm wrong? What are the things that could derail my conviction? And again, I'm not trying to give you my conviction, because I can talk about other things as well. It's your own. You know, these ideas in these things, whether it's AI, whether it's mining, whether it's gold. I mean, we can talk a lot about gold because I have a ton of conviction in that as well. But what could make it go wrong? And those are the things you should be watching, right? I think they're tempted as an investor, and I feel this too, especially with the internet, is to find someone else who's investing like you are and just read about them being bullish on what you're bullish on. It's very comforting. You know, I remember when Bitcoin was going crazy and everyone's like, HODL, HODL, you know, like, and there would be like chat rooms and everyone's just telling each other just to hang on. And it's very comforting. It's kind of very powerful as well. But you have to look at the other side of that to actually have deep conviction, right? And know the opposite side. Know what can really derail this. What if I'm wrong about AI? You know, we had the Pope out yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this. He's like railing against AI. The Pope, the Catholic Pope going on about, like, maybe there's some social angle about AI. I mean, people are scared of it. Nobody wants to lose their job to AI. So what if I'm wrong? Like, what if everyone wants to burn down AI? What if we start electing governments that want to stop AI? So what if I'm wrong about that? It's such a critical thing to ask yourself. Again, like I said about timing, you can have conviction. You have the deepest conviction, but there's no way you're going to get the timing right, and things will happen in between. You know, copper prices went down a lot at the start of this war in Iran. This is one that I had a ton of conviction in, just to give you some idea of where conviction comes from. And I talked about earlier, Jim Cramer crying about oil prices, saying he'd never buy an oil company again. And that was sort of the bottom. And at that time, I was saying, I'm all in on oil here now. Everybody else has puked out oil. This is the bottom, not the bottom of COVID, but late October 2020, so 6 months after COVID. Biden was about to come in. And I said, listen, we're not going to stop using oil. I understood. You know, we're not going all electric. And even if we do, all the cars are going to stay on the road until then. And a lot of diesel demand is in mining or aviation or power generation. And I was saying, I think oil is going to be incredible trade. And that was one where I made 10 times on it. I didn't get the timing exactly right either. And even if you wrote what I was writing there, I thought it was at 30 then. I thought maybe we'd go down to 20 and then go up. But whatever, I was in. You know, tolerated it, got in early, and oil went up and up. XLE is tripled. I mean, crude right now is stratospheric. You know, I wasn't betting on wars in Russia and Iran, but either way, crude was going to go up a lot from $30 because we're still burning. Because the consensus then was that we're going to change everything to green, and it was just madness. It was madness. So didn't get the timing exactly right, but got the trade right. And again, once you develop conviction, the temptation is to go all in. You find something you believe in, you stop asking yourself, what if I'm wrong? And you go big. And then you get shaken out because nothing goes up in a straight line. Start small. Get into something small. Remember, there's always another trade, like I often say. Get in some. If you believe in some, you're going to have some. And you'll do well. There's going to be more. Take a little bit. Position size wrong. This is the most important slide here. Before you get into a trade that you have high conviction in, something that you're going to be in for years. I've been in copper, oil, all these ones for years. You have to sit down and anticipate the pain. And I think this is what helps you stay in the trade. Is you look out, I say, I'm going to talk about things I think are going to double and triple. And it's nice to think, wow, how am I going to spend that money? How much I'm going to make? It's going to go triple. Yeah, it's going to be really nice if it works out, and I think it's going to work out. But what you should be thinking about is the pain along the way. And if you can sit and look into the future and say, there's going to be a time this is going to look really stupid, or I'm going to have huge doubts about this. Trump's going to start a war or another war. Something's going to go wrong. The Chinese economy is going to be bad. I'm bullish on copper up to 2030. There's going to be something between now and 2030 that's going to really hurt the trade that I didn't think of. And I'm ready for that pain, right? I've anticipated the feelings I'm going to have, and then it comes, because it always comes. And then you're able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I knew this was going to come. I knew this was going to be hard. And then I think you're ready for it. Then you can stay in the trade. Otherwise, you're going to get shaken out at the bottom. And that's when your conviction is tested. So you have to build the conviction muscle at the outset. And imagine that pain. Take a smaller size. Imagine, geez, okay, can I still, you're looking at it, I'm buying it at 20. Will I still be able to hold this at 15? At 10? 10's a lot. 50%, maybe I need to get out. So maybe I need to position smaller. Maybe I need to be ready to buy more then, right? Because if I like it at 20, I'm gonna love it at 10. Anticipate the pain. Again, you can borrow my ideas. I'm happy to share my ideas, but I'm not here to sell you on my ideas. I'm trying to show you my thinking around these things, the timing, the doubts, the position sizing, to develop conviction in your own way. I've seen, people who had conviction in Bitcoin. I didn't. Like I showed yesterday, I was writing about Bitcoin at $5. People were offering to give me Bitcoin. I don't really believe in it. I did sort of later, made some money along the way, but I never believed in it, but these people did. And they had this insane conviction, a lot of them. I mean, God bless someone who had the conviction from $5 to 100,000. But I didn't, and so it wasn't my thing. There's always another trade. But maybe you did, right? And you needed to be ready for the volatility in Bitcoin to go from 5 to, you got to be crazy to have that much conviction, but 5 to 100 was a heck of a trade. So develop your own conviction and use those techniques, the position sizing, because even $100 in Bitcoin at $5 ended up being a hell of a trade. So these are the ones that I've talked about. I talked about war. We're going to need a lot of energy. This is Kevin Warsh, the new Fed chair. The last one I want to get onto is that central bankers are sort of asleep about inflation right now. There was this belief, and I had some belief in it as well, that AI was going to be deflationary, cause a lot of job losses. And it's turning out now that it's actually inflationary. Now we have tariffs on top of that. We have this stupid war. You have incredible amounts of government spending that is not stopping. That's inflation, inflation, inflation. Growth's holding up pretty well right now. Inflation. And central bankers are asleep. And this guy's talking about cutting rates. He's just coming into the Federal Reserve when he needs to be hiking rates right now. So we're going to have an inflation problem. Again, an emerging conviction of mine. Obviously, short bonds is the obvious way to play it. But inflation causes a lot of dislocation. So that's one. Stock markets, obviously, AI, CapEx. Fiscal spending, something changed. a number of years where governments will just spend like crazy. And when you have government spending without stopping, the only end to that is devaluing currencies. And what does well when currencies are devalued is gold. I have a very strong feeling that we're halfway through the gold rally at most. You have the American sort of empire breaking apart right now. We're selling gold right now because they're worried about Turkey needing dollars or to buy oil. So we're selling our gold reserves to buy oil in some of these places during the war, and that's keeping a lid on gold. If this war ends, gold's going to go right back up and continue going up. So that's how I feel on that. I'd love to talk about gold. Yeah, good. I even have a slide on it. Any hard assets right now, as the dollar system, the global rules-based order, which is always a bit of a lie, is falling apart. Along this, I believe this is going to be a very strong trade, is companies, things that have heavy assets, low obsolescence, capex heavy things, steel mills, refineries, railways, things that are hard to build out. We put the tech people, the tech nerds in charge of the world, and they can move fast and break things, right? You can roll out a new app, you can integrate AI. You know what's hard to build? A mine, a refinery, a power plant. So these things that have high assets, low margins. And one of the things that's going to make them a lot more profitable is that AI, a lot of these companies with low margins, so they'll have $1 billion in revenue and make $50 million a year. So it's a very low margin business. But with AI, you can cut some costs, right? Even if you're trimming, even if you can cut your costs by 1%, well, that's going to double your margins. So you get these very small marginal improvements. And one of those that I have a lot of conviction in right now, and it's very out of consensus, is aviation. And I believe that aviation and commercial aviation is, first of all, mankind's greatest achievement. To have safe commercial aviation. You ever see those numbers about how many planes are in the air any given day, any given time? It's like unbelievable amounts of planes. The plane crash is extremely rare, and it's been a terrible business. Warren Buffett said, if mankind had any foresight, they would have shot the guys at Kitty Hawk in Kansas when they were inventing the airplane and saved shareholders a lot of money. Because airlines have always been a terrible business, but I think it's going to change. And it's way out of consensus view. Warren Buffett also said, and I'm saying this is kind of what if I'm wrong, is that if God wanted a man to fly, he would have made airlines profitable. But they have huge overhead costs. It's a very difficult industry to break into. And the planes are more and more full right now. Travel is like a super trend. The older generations are traveling a ton. And airlines have finally figured out how to make money, and no competition is coming. And I think AI can shave their costs, optimize routes, optimize planes, a few percentage points. And again, airlines trade at like 4 times earnings. Very, very cheap. It's one I could go on about, but I have some large investments in aviation. So if I'm back here in 3 years, we'll do a scorecard on that, and we'll see. We'll see. Again, what if go wrong? This guy can make a lot of things go wrong. Technological breakthroughs, capex, labor markets, political stupidity, huge risk. I know you've seen it everywhere, but in general, things stay the same more than they change. Could be famous last words, but I didn't anticipate a war. So again, Taylor, we're just wrapping it up here. Find your pain threshold. It is always lower than you think. Build your own conviction and stay in the game. Stay in the game. The trades come over and over again. Have this slide in every one. There's always another trade. I have a lot of conviction in a lot of things, including AI there, where you think, man, I should have made 10 times my money. I was dead right on that. And you blow it, and it hurts. It hurts to be right and not make money. It's worse to be right and not make money than to be wrong. If you're wrong, you're just stupid. If you're right and you didn't make money, you're like a different, more painful kind of stupid, and then you make bad decisions. But there's always another trade. I could miss all those. I'm going to stay in the game in 2030, and 4 years from now, and there'll be something else happening. There'll be a new thing. Could be dead wrong on all those, but I'll stay in the game and find another trade. You don't need to make 10 times or 100 times your money many times. You know, if you can do it once or twice in a lifetime and trade it right, that's all you'll ever need. So be right once. 6 takeaways there for my presentation. I've got a little bit of time for questions here. It's been a wonderful time here in Cape Town. And I really want this to stay in the game. You become a better trader over time. Don't do anything stupid. Happy to take questions. We also have, I thought we had a presentation there with a QR code. I don't know what happened to that one, but any questions? Happy to take talk about markets, conviction. A man in the front.
Thanks for the presentation, Adam. I have a question regarding conviction. When you were in one of those trades and the trade is going against you, whether you're in drawdown or you're in profit and it's going against you, what are some of your internal thoughts that you are saying to yourself to reinforce your conviction?
Yeah, a lot of the thoughts are dark. A lot of the thoughts, you see, I'm stupid, I could be wrong, start reading things, you miss something obvious. I mean, obviously, if you're in a long-term trade, there are times when you want to get out, right? And you can take a little off. A lot of it is, okay, let's take a little off, let's reset. But you have to go back to that moment at the start, which I said was the first slide. You have to if you anticipate that future pain, when the pain arrives, you're not going to be surprised. Like, I knew this was going to be hard from the outset. Yes, I have a lot of belief in it, but I didn't think I was going to be 10x overnight. I thought this was going to take 3 years. I'm in this aviation trade right now, and the war broke out, right? So the worst thing that can happen to an airline, their biggest cost is fuel. They all lose money when they're paying suddenly $100 a barrel or $150 a barrel for aviation fuel. I said, okay, it's all right. We're down, and this war is going to end one day. And if you look at airlines, they adjust on the price. Yeah, okay, it's fallen 20% from the highs. I don't need to add right here, but I don't want to get out. And so you're trying to put things in perspective, right? And you're reading these stories, the fear factory, the news, that say oil's going to 200, 300. We could have shutdowns. You're picturing a world where planes are grounded, that everything's gone wrong. And we all sort of felt that way at the start of the Iran war. It was in the news every day. But you back your wealth and say, you know what, Trump's going to chicken out because he only cares about the stock market. We'll find some peace. Again, could still be wrong. This war could still go crazy and go sideways. The apocalypse can happen. One of the old things, an old sort of joke in markets is, you ask traders, what do you do if you see a report that nuclear bombs have been launched? Say China and the U.S. What do you do with your stocks if the news says, there's been a nuclear attack from Russia, the things are in the air? And most people would say, well, you sell everything. No, that's the opposite. What you're supposed to do is you buy everything then. Because if the nuclear bombs land, it doesn't matter anyway. And if the reports are wrong, the market's going to bounce back and you're going to make money. So, in general, if there's a nuclear apocalypse, it doesn't matter anyway. You should be buying that dip. So things can always go wrong, but and again, one of the ways to do it, probably for a lot of people, is just ignore the news. Find something. There's something to be said about just getting conviction in something, turning it all off, and jumping ahead 10 years, and oh wow, it went up 10 times. I was right. That's not me. Maybe that's you. And I know some people who've been very successful in just finding something, buying about it, and forgetting about it. It's hard to ignore the news, to ignore what's changing in the world. So, again, develop that conviction, anticipate that pain. Questions? Anyone else? It's been just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to come here. Traveling is a nice way to see the world through different eyes. Such a young country, energetic place. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks to Finance Magnates. And it's a pleasure. I'd love to be in touch with any of you. Please read us at investinglive.com. Everything's free. So I've written 60,000 articles in the last 15 years, all for free, no paywalls or anything. And we have an Investing Live Academy, which we're doing some education. A lot of this was sort of up here, but we're doing a lot of basics from education, and then some of this as well. So I'm always accessible, love trading. I don't think I have if some of these trades go right, that's going to be me riding off into the sunset from this industry and just focusing on having a dog and gardening in my garden. So that's, I think, the end goal. Take care of your family. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for having me.